Hi, it's Anya, and I wanted to share some alternatives for shoulder stand and shoulder stand variations. So it's to give you a range of options. So if the option is to do shoulder stand or variations, you can choose something that works for you. Shoulder stand is quite a strong pose because we are on the shoulders, so the chin is towards the chest, so we get that nice stretch in the back of the neck and shoulders. But obviously that action also has a lot of pressure of the cervical spine, so the top of the spine. So it might not be appropriate for everyone. So if you have osteoporosis, that could be potentially too much pressure on the cervical spine. So you have to check in what feels right for you, especially if you have certain kind of conditions you have to be mindful of. You might also just not feel like doing an inversion, or maybe you're on your period and you just don't really want to be upside down. So I'll give quite a range of options, and then it's just, it's for you to decide what feels good for your body. We'll start with one variation, which could simply be that you have a little chair, or you have your sofa, or you have your bed, and you simply rest your lower legs onto your chair, and you have a little inversion through the legs. And it's just a very relaxed variation. So it's just a nice pose to be in. In this variation, you could also have a cushion underneath the pelvis if you want a little bit of lift through the pelvis. A similar variation is to have the legs up the wall. With legs up the wall, you don't have to be all the way to the wall. You are where you want to be. You'll swing around, let the legs come up against the wall. Whoops. And then you can do your arm variation. So you could be further away from the wall. You could be really close, depending on what goes on in your legs. And then you have the inversion through the legs, but you don't have any pressure on the neck, and you don't have an inversion for the pelvis if you prefer not to do inversions if you are menstruating. You could have a little cushion or even a bolster underneath the pelvis to have a little lift, or indeed you could have that just so there's a bit of drop through the hips as well, so you have a bit of space where your buttocks are between the wall and your cushion. So then there's a bit of a curve in the spine. So that's a nice little variation as well. And to come out, you can just roll to the side and then come up. If you have a bolster, you could also use a bolster underneath your pelvis, so that's an option too. So for shoulder stand, there are variations. If you're unsure about coming up to a shoulder stand, I would definitely suggest that you're with a teacher in person, just so they can check that it feels good. Because of the pressure in the neck, you don't really want to have that pressure and then move your head around. So when you're in a shoulder stand, you kind of just look up, so you have that neutral spine, so you don't have the pressure on the neck, and then at the same time do rotation through the cervical spine. There are ways to come into shoulder stand. So if it's been a while, you could be a little bit away from the wall, lie down, have the feet against the wall, and then again I'm just going to look up, not to the side, so I avoid pressure in the neck. Then you can press into the wall to lift the pelvis. So then you're in your inversion, moving the elbows in. You could hold on to your pelvis, and maybe this is your shoulder stand. Then you could extend one leg. You could work on extending the other. You could come into a half shoulder stand if that feels nice. And then if you choose to, you can lift up through the legs and come into a full shoulder stand. And to come out again, you have the wall. And then you roll back down. Now, if you feel like you are ready to come into a shoulder stand, you have a shoulder stand practice, but it just feels a bit too much for the neck, then you can raise your shoulders a bit so that there's more support and space for the neck. And we'll do that with folded up blankets. So you'd want the blankets to at least be as wide as your shoulders, and however your arms are going to be. So your arms and your shoulders will be on the blanket. So they have to be quite wide and just thick enough. So I have a thick blanket and a very thin blanket. So we'll explore, and this is something that you kind of have to explore and see what feels good for your body. So that's where your shoulders will be, and your head will then be on the floor, and it just gives more space. So you find the right variation. So your shoulders on the support. You can have folded up mats as well. But even like this, there's a bit more movement. But obviously, as I come into the variation, I'm just going to look up. So again, from here, you can press down through the upper arms, lift the pelvis, and come up. And it just gives more space in the neck. So I'm this way because if I want to go into Halasana, I could just have my legs on the wall, and they don't need to come all the way down to the floor. But I have support. So this could be, the wall could also be your bed or your cushion, your sofa. But if it's a bit far to come down to the floor, it's just nice to have support. And then with that, you can really find the length through the spine. And there's support. You can rise up, you can create space. And then obviously, there's always regular shoulder stand, no support, no blankets, no walls, or no bolsters or whatever you otherwise could choose to use. But this is your body, and you have to listen to your body, not your ego. So explore what feels good for you, and just using common sense. And again, always good just to do this with a teacher, just to check in how it's going, or if you have questions. So I hope that's helpful. And when you come to the online classes, when I give a shoulder stand option or whatever variation you want to choose, these are just some of the variations you can explore. And so I hope to see you again on one of the classes in the monthly membership on yogaembodied.com or yogaembodiedonline.com. So thank you so much.